Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. Today we'll be seeing few of the important topics of Terraform, basically how to connect Terraform with our Azure and configure resources over Azure. So this is going to be a very quick hands-on experience on how to do that. Yeah, but before we do so, we have to make sure that we have few things already set up. So maybe I will take a new file and I'll tell you the prerequisites for this. The first prerequisite is you must have a account on Azure portal. So that's simple. You have to go to Azure portal. You have to log in using whatever method you want. So once you have created that, it will look something of this sort. So you can see I have created my account and all the stuff. You can search for the resources over here. So there are several resources to understand how to create that. You can do that. After that, the other thing that is required will be the AZ So you have to download AZ So this particular CLI is utilized for configuring resources over Azure portal, or to interact with Azure portal. We need to have this particular command line interface installed. Once this is done, the third thing which we need to have is Terraform install for whatever operating system you're using. For example, I'm using Windows, so I'll be installing Terraform for Windows. So the steps to do that are simple. It's easily available over internet. You can do that. So once those things are done, let's see what are the other things we have to do. So the first step is to perform a login. Okay, so this is the login command, tenant ID. So what is the tenant ID? Tenant ID is basically tenant in Azure is like a instance of their Azure Active Directory. We create an instance of Azure Active Directory and that is called as tenant. It can have subscriptions and several service principals and all those things attached to it. So for finding the tenant ID, you have to go to your Azure portal. You have to, in the search box, you have to search for Microsoft Intra ID. So once we have searched this, we'll be easily able to find the tenant ID. So yeah, the first step here will be a start clear this. Let's open a new terminal. Yeah, so the first step for login is AZ login. So assuming that we have installed AZ CLI, we'll do AZ login. So once we click AZ login, it will give us a pop-up for logging in using the Microsoft account. So we can continue with that. And if that is your first login, you'll have to start creating the start entering your credentials and everything. Since I have logged in before, that's why I'm uh, getting the values retrieved from the previous login information. So you can see I have got this tenant ID and the subscription ID already added to my terminal. So this is because I've already logged in. If it is not the case, you have to retrieve the tenant ID and you have to use this particular command. And so once this is done, we have to create a service sprint. What we have to do here is we have to take this particular command. So and the one more thing is that I'm taking all these commands from the documentation. So you can find the link of the documentation. I'll put all these commands in the in sub GitHub repo and I'll provide it in the description. So you can find all these things in the documentation of Terraform. So you can see that how you want to authenticate using the Azure CLI. So even that is there. And once that is done, you have to create a service principal and verify it using a client secret. So that is also here. So I'm taking most of the things from this particular location. So you can even see that this particular command which I'm going to run is this particular command where we have the uh, things created over here, like how to create a service principal which will have permission to manage the resources and all. So we have to basically provide the subscription ID for creating this particular resource. So let's say I take this command and we have to give a contributor role to the service principal so that we can contribute to the resources or contribute to our Azure portal ID. And once we have it here, we will have to give the scopes and the subscription ID. So make sure that we are providing it correctly. Subscription ID you can find when you did the AZ login. So here we did the creation of service principal. Let's see how it goes. Yep. So this is created. Now this is a very interesting thing here. We'll be getting 4 new variables created, and we have to understand what these variables mean. So for understanding the same, we have it provided in the Terraform documentation itself. So app ID over here means this is the client ID. Password is the client secret, and tenant is the tenant ID. Okay, so we have to understand these things, and this will be required in the further commands. So uh, now we have to log in using the service principal. So earlier we logged in, that was just for authenticating our desktop or our machine to the Azure portal, that yeah, this is a machine which is authenticated by a verified user. Now we have to log in using the service principal which we have created. So the command for that is az login service principal u client ID p client secret and tenant ID. So we have seen that we have already got these values and what they mean. So what is client ID, what is client secret, and tenant ID. So in this particular command, we'll be using these particular values. So if I replace the required values, so okay, password keeps on changing. So maybe I'll have to replace this password with uh, client secret. This is the client secret, right? Yeah, this is the client secret. So I will have to take this and replace it over here. Yeah, so this is the new thing which I've created, and we can see other values are same. Okay, app ID is also different, so I'll replace the app ID also from the output. Took the app ID from here, I pasted it over here. So basically I'm replacing the values in this particular command with the new values that are generated by the service principal login. So paste it here and we do enter, and we can see that we can log in using these values. Now once we have logged in using these values, the output will be of such kind. We'll see the cloud name, we'll see other metadata related to the login. So once that is done, we have to basically understand few things of how we are going to work on this. So now your variables are created, your logins are done, and you can start creating the Terraform files. So in Terraform files, again, I've taken the Terraform files from the documentation. So first of all, we will configure a provider. So provider is like there can be several providers for Terraforms, like Azure provider, or AWS provider, or GCP provider. So these providers are the ones which are maintained by the cloud companies itself, but they are the ones that interact with Terraform for creating the resources. So for example, I have created this provider.tf where we'll be configuring what is the provider we are going to use. So the required provider for this particular setup will be Azure RM. So once that is done, we'll tell what is the source, where are we taking source for this particular Terraform file or Terraform syntax. So Terraform, as we know, is maintained by HashiCorp, so that is there. And what is the version? Version is 4.0.0, which we are using. And now we are configuring the Microsoft Azure provider. So for configuring that, we have to add these particular client ID. So again, this client ID, client secret, tenant ID, subscription ID, we have already seen that how have we got it in previous command while we perform the normal login. So we have to use those values again. So we can see app ID. What again? I'll revisit. What is app ID? Client ID. So you have to put it there. What is password? Client secret. So password is just so client secret. You have to put it here. Now what is tenant ID? So tenant ID is this. You have to put it here. Now what else is left? Uh, App ID. I think subscription ID. Subscription ID anyways will be the one which we have used, which we got generated. We can even find it at like it will be found at several locations, so we can take it from one of the places. And once that is done, this particular setup is done. So next we have to start configuring the main.tf, where we are going to configure the resources. So in this particular configuration, we can see that the way we manage it is, okay, let's see what are the things we have written in notes. So after service principal login is there, will provider.tf, we have seen how to basically create a provider or configure the provider. And then we'll also see how the variables are created. So first we go to main.tf. So in main.tf, how we declare a resource, how we are going to declare the resource. Resources are declared in this format. We'll have a resource keyword. We'll have the name of the resource as mentioned in the cloud by the cloud provider. So this is very important. This particular name is what Azure knows this name, this particular resource as, and this particular name is what we named it. Okay, for our local references. So we named Azure RM resource group. We created a resource group and we named it example. So locally, we have to use this particular resource group with the name example. Then we'll also create a virtual network. So in the virtual network, we'll name it as main. And I'll come to this what is where prefix and all those things. But we'll see that we have also created a Azure subnet. We also created a NIC network interface NI, and we have like the IP configuration for that network interface is also given over here. We've also created a Azure virtual machine, so that is there. And there are several things which we are configuring going forward. I've taken it from the documentation, so I'll put again the links will be in the description, so you can copy this code. This is basically the resources which we are configuring. So that is there. Now the main concept over here that comes into picture is that we have to utilize, we cannot put all the variables directly into this file. So we have to basically import it from a different file, because obviously this is not a good practice to import all the variables or directly hard code all the variables. So we have a file named tfvars, where we have created, like, let's say two variables we have created, location and prefix. So how we are using it? So if we come to the first variable, you see we are going to name this virtual network as var.prefix from the environment variable. Any file with the extension tfvars a uh, is a like environment variable. It basically creates the environment variable, is imported as the environment variable. So var dot prefix means whatever is the environment variable. Well, do we have prefix over there? Yeah, we have it. So we are basically concatenating this value var dot prefix and network. So that's why we have used the syntax. So the syntax is required if you are concatenating the value. But if you are not concatenating the value, I directly want to use the environment variable, then we can use var dot location. So it will go to TFRs, it will see what is the location, West Europe, it will take that location and it will use it in this particular place, where dot location. So this is how we do all the resources. You can say in this format, it is their resource, then the name of the resource, then the local name of the resource which we are using it uh, in our setup. So once that thing is done, we have to come here and let's see what are the next steps. So we are here. Uh, So we have explained how the resources are used. Now, what are the commands which we have to follow? So there is Terraform init. Terraform init is the command which is used to initialize uh, all the providers. Okay, it will download the Terraform plugins, provider plugins, and all those things. So once that is done, so format will align any format, any of the file which is not in correct format, or it is basically beautify the files. So once that is done, we'll validate all the files, whether all the files are syntactically correct or not. So I hope they are. Yes, everything is valid. Now plan. Now these three are the commands. Mainly important commands are init, plan, and apply. Init will download the plugins. Plan, what it will do is it will show you the plan. What are the things that this particular resource or this particular Terraform infrastructure is going to do in your Azure portal. So it is providing us the plan that okay, what are the things it will create. So it will create a virtual network and it will create several other things. So resource group name and all those things it is giving you the virtual machine which it will create and the metadata related to that and all those things it is providing us. And we can see at the end there are total 5 things that will be added if we implement this plan. So once this plan is implemented, we will, if you're agreeing with the plan, you can go and run Terraform apply. Now, this is the main thing that will actually perform the task, that will actually create all the resources which we have covered. So, if I run this, it will start creating the resources. It will also create these 2 files, which are internal files for the reference of the Terraform. So, yeah, you have to enter yes over here. Uh, Terraform will perform the action described. Do you want to perform these 5 added? Okay, yes is the only value. Maybe I should have ran Terraform apply auto approve. This basically gives yes as an automatic answer, and we don't need to specifically provide yes. So if I do yes, it will perform the actions. So do you want to perform these actions? Yeah, Terraform apply. Yeah, so it has started creating it. So I could have tried using Terraform apply, but auto approve, in auto approve, we don't need to say yes particularly before. We don't need to give permissions and all those things. So we are going to use this. And once this is done, let's see if the resources are created. So this is a simple way, a simple, quick hands-on experience on how to create Azure uh, resources using a Terraform. So yeah, you can utilize this. So I'll put all the links in the description. And apart from that, we will see that all the resources are created. So if we go to the Azure portal, we can see there is this resource group demo resources which has been created, and we see a virtual network, a network interface, virtual machine, and a disk which is created as per the names which we provided in the Terraform configuration. So yeah, this is how a simple way in which I think you can create all the resources on Azure and using Terraform. And yeah, the setup is not that long since the ease of using Terraform has been so great that all the companies are moving towards using Terraform for their resource configuration over cloud. And for the things related to resource like management or to install things over the resources, people or companies have generally been using Ansible. But yeah, Terraform still remains the top choice for creating resource over cloud. So thank you for watching and thanks a lot.